it, saying growth of government, growth of spending does not mean more prosperity.
It means less.
It means less.
Yeah, so let's look at the northern border for a change, okay? Bureau of Land Management right now is trying to seize property up there along the Red River. What can you do about that?
Well, I was up there part of my North Texas Red River tour. I went up to Texarkana in the bus, and I went over all counties on that border, ending in Wichita County. And I was part of the big protest there to protest the BLM's threatened seizure of that property. And I met with some of those property owners, and they're very appreciative and very supportive. I don't see anybody else in this race taking this approach, but that is an unconstitutional act. And the beauty of nullification is to say to these landowners, you are not in this alone. Because they tried to do this. They did it. They did it to one of the property owners like 20 years ago, and he sued in federal court. He lost, and nobody was there with him. Nobody had his back. I said, if we do this differently this time, we have a governor that leads the way to nullify these acts, calls them out, says you're not getting this land, then they know that you're not just messing with one landowner here or there, you're messing with the state of Texas, and maybe they'll have second thoughts about that.
That never was federal land, and I don't see what
I
right
don't, no, it never was. And when a river changes course, sometimes ownership changes. Maybe it does, but we will make that decision about who owns that land under Texas law or under Oklahoma law, but the answer will not be, it will never be that the federal government owns that land. It never did, it never will. Yes.
Two questions. What, if any, Texas agencies or departments would you eliminate? And then on the question of tax abatements and incentives to encourage corporations to move to Texas, how would you approach that?
Oh, let's see. Well, TDC. I think I would do that.
Eliminate TDC?
What do you mean by that? Define TDC.
Texas
I don't-
Development Corp.
No, the
CPS.
Enterprise fund, is that what you're trying to say?
no,
Texas Water Development.
the transportation, Department of Transportation.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's
Texas
not.
Dot.
Department of Transportation.
Texas Dot.
That's what I would do, because I don't see any good coming out of them, and so that'd be number one. I'm sure there's a lot there, but that's one thing that seems particularly pernicious. There's a lot of education agencies that's just serve no purpose, and they're up to no good. So what is the SEC? ESC.
Yeah,
ESC. That would be one, right off the bat. Now about other giving incentives or tax abatements, I don't agree with that. I wouldn't do it. I think nobody paid me to come to Texas. I did it because I just knew a good thing when I saw it. And that's the sort of person we want, companies too. If being here in this environment and being in Texas is not enough incentive, then I'm afraid you're here for the wrong reasons. And it just won't work out. Yes.
All right, well, this is a case in point now. What if for the same-sex marriage it's litigated, somebody files a lawsuit in Texas, goes to the Supreme Court, and they overturn Texas law, as they've done in other states? How would you handle that? Would it be nullification then, or, I mean?
Yes, because that's a decision. That is a state decision. We made that decision. And they can say that, but to me, it's a null and void. And I just want to say a thing about this. I personally believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. And government ought to stay out of it. And if you think marriage can be or should be or is something different, you ought to want government to stay out of it too. So I think this is to protect marriage as I see it. I want to get government out of it. And I think we can do that consistent with our constitutional provision about defining marriage.
You know how when you get those emails forwarded to you, and one time it was take this test and see what political leanings you have? And so I took the test, and when it got to the end, it said I was a libertarian. And that's when I first started really looking into, well, what does that mean? And of course, then you hear a lot about, you talked about liberty. So, and the scary word that's always out there is drugs, and the legalization of drugs, and marijuana, and that. So can you just help me understand a little bit libertarian views, and then how that all works?
Well, I think most Texans are libertarian, and this has not always been true. When I first came to Texas, I met Tom. We met in the Libertarian Party, and I think at that time we went around, and I don't think you could say Texans are libertarian, because even on the economic issues, they weren't really into it. It took like Milton Friedman and Free to Choose, a lot of things to change people's mind. But I can tell you now, since 2010 and today, I think they are largely. What is a libertarian? Well, the word is liberty. And the party got started back in the 80s when, well, it was what before that, 70s, yes, 70s, when Richard Nixon instituted wage and price controls on top of all this other stuff he'd done. And a group of conservative Republicans said, that's done, I'm not going around with this, and so they started this party. But it's based on a philosophy that's been around for a long time called libertarian, which basically live and let live. You should be able to do what you want to with yourself, your life, your property, so long as you don't interfere with other people's rights to do the same thing. You don't use force, you don't use fraud. And government exists for the purpose of supporting you in your exercise of your rights. So there's a legitimate place for government to arrest people who attack you and aggress against you and violate this principle. Now, when you have I think one of a problem that the Libertarian Party has is when they chose the word libertarian instead of liberty or something else. It's sort of an odd word, and it causes people to say, well, what's going on here, like something strange is going on. So, and it's also difficult to have a name of a political party that's also the name of a philosophy, and you don't draw the lines between them. Because a political party just concentrates on what is politically necessary, and not all aspects of a way of living, every aspect of your philosophy of life. Political party shouldn't and doesn't need to address every single aspect of being, just what's politically necessary for people to do, and the reasons people want a political party. And of course, when you run a campaign, you focus even more on the issues that matter to the voters at that time and place. So that's what it is. I don't think it's that odd, and I don't think it's that unusual when people hear about it. I say, well, yeah, that's what I am. And that's why people take those tests. I've had people say to me, I've called myself conservative all my life, and I've had people call me conservative, and I don't say, no, I'm not, I'm a libertarian. Because I think I know what they mean by that. I think they mean a limited government, constitutional government. I think that's what they mean when they say they're a conservative. And that's what I mean when I say I'm a libertarian. So I think we address the same thing. You asked specifically about drugs, and I guess that's the thing that most people want to know about. For me, marijuana, I say treat marijuana like beer, and I'm going into my reasons for that, but I think we should do that. Other drugs, all drugs are not the same, and I wouldn't say that for anything else at this time. Yes, sir?
Yes. Would you ever support strengthening the ADA kind of for the Disabilities Act, and like make it like a Texas state where it's more strict? Because some areas, isn't wheelchair or other items I really not going to discuss.
No, I don't think I would support that.
All right, do we have any other questions? Kathy, we thank you for
Well,
coming.
Thank you. I appreciate the question. It was very stimulating.
It's so interesting to have a microphone that didn't grab at us. Well, very good.
One quick follow-up, and it's not really your governorship. Could you just explain to us briefly how the Libertarian Party picks the governor candidates? There weren't elections, and it's not anything we probably know.
Yes, it's a different process. And I want to say that we have a convention process, which is different from a primary process. And when I talk about the two-party system is corrupt, I say this is the reason I think it is, because of primary system. I think that is the most corrupting influence that I have seen. everyone used to choose their candidates by convention. And primary is relatively recent. I mean, they thought, oh, it was corrupt because of smoke-filled rooms and rich and powerful just chose it. Well, that's what happens in primaries, because primaries are so expensive. To win, to prevail in a primary for a statewide office, you need tens of millions under the old way. I'm trying to buck that system. But to come out of the primary process, you need that money. Where do you get it? All the cronies. How do you get it? You appeal to the cronies. So that's why I say it's corrupting. Now, under Texas law, I can go into these details, but depending on how your party did in the gubernatorial election, the last gubernatorial election, dictates whether you are a primary party or a convention party.
Oh, okay.
And so this last time, because of my race in 2010, our party had an election. We could have gone either way. We could have been a primary party now. We chose to stay convention, and I'm glad we did. Because we do have conventions, and you have conventions, Republicans have conventions, but in our conventions, that's where we nominate our candidates. And you have conventions, and you do things like we do, rules, platform, statewide offices, things like that. But you don't nominate candidates in that process. So that's why it's different. That's why you didn't see me on the primary ballot. That's why you're just now seeing me, because I just now got the nomination like a month or so later.
So what I'm hearing you say is that it's a lot less expensive and the common person can get the nomination, because all you had to do is give your speeches to the convention, a captive audience. Everybody got the same 10 minutes or whatever, 20 minutes. But in the primary, you've got to hit your media to every of the major cities. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's not quite that simple and easy in the convention process, because we're growing and we have competition. And no, I didn't just wait to get to the convention to let people know about me. You know, I had to do outreach, I had to campaign, to get the nomination. But it is a lot less expensive. It is doable. People can do it and not have tens of millions of dollars.
So about fees and protection.
Oh, yes. Now, because we don't participate in the primary, we don't pay filing fees. Our candidates don't.
To the state?
Well,
to
you
the
pay
county?
filing fees, and they go usually to the local, to the county, and you pay those filing fees to participate in the primary. In addition to those filing fees, though, because the filing fees do not pay for the primary, the state of Texas, the taxpayers pay the bulk of what they cost to run those primaries. But the filing fees are there, and they're significant. For senator, it's like $5,000. So that's why a good Liberty candidate may not be able to participate, because either they're going to get these signatures on a petition, and that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Some people have asked me, and I'm too new to the state really to know, but can you name some large-scale cronies that really make a lot of money? Are you free to do that? You feel free, to?
Well, where to start?
Brady.
Like, for instance, about the border money that Ag is getting. The border, elaborate on that.
Well, I wouldn't want to name a name because I don't know that for a fact. But I mean, you can go and look at the Texas Ethics Commission and see who gives money, and that's a start. That's public record. But a lot of it, I'm sure you won't be able to find out. But and these people aren't necessarily bad people. They're just doing it's human nature. They can pay money here, and they can get benefits. So it's like a business.
The golden rule. They can hide it so easy through associations.
Yes, that's true.
Texas
Corporations cannot donate, but associations can. So that's easily got
But they're
around.
essentially good people, is that?
Well, I'm not saying they're really good people. I'm saying they're not necessarily evil people. They're just that human nature can be corrupted. They respond to incentives. And these are perverse incentives that have been put into place. So I know some people who would say, I don't like doing this, but I have to.
Yes,
To
I've heard that.
to keep an even playing field. Yes, sir.
Is that there's the corruption here on the local front. especially with Dole's campaign, and Charlie Riley's campaign with that so-called the fake Tea Party group. And which is, what do you think of those? Do you
Well,
think it's way too corrupt that they should leave, or?
I'm not
do you
sure.
think they
I'm-
might in such a position?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about, I'm not clear on what you're talking about.
Are you talking about pay to play in the Republican
Yes.
primary?
No, no,
Yeah,
no,
that's
no.
what
We had a
Okay. There's a
fraudulent group
Texas Tea Party
sprung up.
group.
Oh, yeah, all these
Okay,
fake groups.
well, you know, that wasn't my party, so I don't know the details that you do, but it sounds pretty corrupt to me.
It is.
It is.
And
Are you gonna
Very
introduce?
I hear they're still taking
Are you
money.
gonna
if you want
introduce
their
David?
endorsement.
I was sort of looking for people to give me money. That would help out a lot.
I bet Crichton is the one that would go with the fake Tea Party.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
I hope not.
Hand you the mic back.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much, Kathy.